Oak Ridge Lane was known for its quiet. It was the kind of suburban street where lawns were trimmed weekly, kids played basketball in driveways, and the loudest sound after sunset was usually the hum of air conditioners. Families had moved here for peace, for stability, for a neighborhood that looked picture perfect. But perfection is fragile, and sometimes all it takes is a scratch on a car door to shatter it. It started in the late afternoon, when the sun was still high but beginning to soften. Two neighbors, both proud, stubborn, and unwilling to back down, stood in the driveways arguing. One swore the other had scraped his SUV while backing out. The other denied it, claiming he had been inside all day. Voices rose, words sharpened. Neighbors peeked out from behind curtains, already sensing something bigger was brewing. By the time the clock struck 7, the argument had spilled into the street. The two men stood chest to chest now, every word louder than the last. People gathered quietly, forming a half circle around them. Phones came out, recording buttons pressed. In this day and age, no fight goes unwatched, no drama goes undocumented. The first shove was quick, almost instinctive, a palm to the chest, a stumble backward, gasps rippled through the crowd. But instead of ending it, that shove ignited something raw. The other man recovered, swung hard, and landed a punch that cracked against the jaw with sickening force. That was it. The dam had burst. Fists flew. Bodies collided against parked cars. The screech of metal echoed as a side mirror snapped off. The two men were locked in a chaotic dance, a blur of sweat and fury. Their voices turned to grunts and curses, drowned out by the chorus of shouts from neighbors. Some yelled for them to stop. Others egged them on. Kids were pulled inside, though many left blinds open just enough to watch. The fight grew louder, uglier, more desperate. Then came the sound that made every spine stiffen. Sirens. Distant at first, then closer. Wailing, urgent, unmistakable. Within minutes, flashing red and blue lights swept across the neighborhood. Two police cruisers roared into Oak Ridge, tires screeching as they stopped at sharp angles. Doors burst open. Officers spilled out, radios crackling with static and clipped commands. "Break it up!" one shouted, voice cutting through the chaos. But the fighters didn't stop. If anything, the presence of police made them fight harder, each determined not to appear weak. Bloody knuckles and split lips gleamed under the harsh glow of cruiser headlights. One slammed the other into a mailbox, bending it sideways. The other retaliated with a wild swing that narrowly missed an officer trying to intervene. The crowd gasped. The line between neighborly feud and criminal offense had just been crossed, and the night was only beginning.
As more police cruisers arrived, Oak Ridge transformed. What had been a suburban street only an hour earlier was now a war zone, lit by strobes of red and blue. Shadows flickered across the houses as spotlights swung, catching terrified faces peeking from windows. The once peaceful road pulsed with noise, sirens, shouts, the slam of car doors, the endless thrum of adrenaline. The fighters refused to yield. Officers lunged at them, trying to separate their tangled bodies, but each attempt ended in struggle. One man broke free, charging with raw fury, his shoulder slamming into his rival's ribs. They both crashed onto the hood of a silver sedan, denting the metal with a deafening thud. The car alarm screamed into the night, a shrill backdrop to the violence. Neighbors stepped back, their recordings shaking as the fight spilled dangerously close. Some shouted advice at the officers, others hurled insults at the fighters, the line between audience and participant blurring with every second. An officer tackled one man from behind, dragging him across the asphalt, skin scraping, blood streaking the ground. Another officer grabbed the second man, shoving him against a cruiser, trying to cuff his hands. But rage made them stronger, wild with resistance. They fought not just each other now, but the authority of the law itself. Radios crackled louder. "We need backup on Oak Ridge. 2 combative subjects. Crowd control required." Within minutes, more cruisers roared into the block. SUVs with mounted spotlights joined, beams slicing across the growing crowd. The neighborhood was bathed in alternating flashes of red and blue, a surreal carnival of chaos. The crowd wasn't quiet anymore. Some shouted encouragement, some screamed in fear, some simply recorded in silence. A chant even began. "Let them fight! Let them fight!" It spread through the onlookers, carried by adrenaline and the desire to witness something unforgettable. The officers struggled to regain control. Batons were drawn, commands grew harsher, step back, stay behind the line. But few listened. Curiosity overpowered obedience. Oak Ridge had never seen anything like this, and no one wanted to look away. One of the fighters, face bloodied and swollen, broke free once more. He charged with animalistic rage, swinging wildly. His fist connected not with his rival, but with an officer's shoulder. Gasps exploded from the crowd. The fight had escalated to assaulting police. There was no turning back now. Instantly, 3 officers converged, tackling him hard to the ground. The thud echoed, his breath knocked from his lungs. He still thrashed, still resisted, still shouted curses, but his strength was fading. The second fighter didn't fare better. Slammed against the hood of a cruiser, his arms twisted painfully behind him until the metallic click of handcuffs ended his resistance. The fight was over, but the chaos wasn't. The crowd pressed closer, phones raised high, shouting questions, demanding explanations. "What happened? Why are you arresting him? I got the whole thing on video." Officers formed a line, pushing people back, forcing them onto sidewalks. "Clear the street," they shouted. Their voices were swallowed by the noise, by the car alarm still blaring, by the restless energy of a neighborhood that had just witnessed its first real taste of violence. The fighters, bloodied and broken, were dragged toward separate cruisers. Their eyes still locked on each other, burning with hatred even through swollen lids. Their shouts echoed, muffled only when the cruiser doors slammed shut. But even as they were taken away, the crowd stayed. No one wanted to leave. No one wanted to let go of the adrenaline. Oak Ridge Lane was forever changed.
When the last police cruiser pulled away, Oak Ridge was left in eerie silence. The flashing lights faded, leaving only the dim glow of street lamps. The smell of burnt rubber and sweat still lingered, but the energy had drained from the air. The street bore scars of the chaos, a mailbox bent nearly in half, a dented car hood, its alarm finally silenced, streaks of blood on the pavement, dark against the asphalt. Neighbors stood in small clusters, whispering, replaying the events. Some swore one man started it. Others claimed both were equally guilty. None could deny what they'd just seen. Video spread almost immediately. Within minutes, Oak Ridge was online, trending across social media. Clips showed fists flying, police struggling, lights flashing, the chant of "Let 'em fight" echoing across the block. Everyone had their version of the story, but the internet didn't care who was right. It only cared that it looked real, raw, and shocking. For days, the neighborhood buzzed with gossip. Families replayed the footage on living room TVs, pointing out details, arguing over facts. Children whispered about the blood on the street, about the way the police slammed the men into cruisers. Parents reassured them it was over, though many weren't so sure. The HOA called an emergency meeting, its members outraged that Oak Ridge's perfect image had been shattered. They debated new rules, curfews, surveillance cameras, stricter parking enforcement. None of it addressed the root of the issue: pride, anger, and the fragile peace of suburbia. The 2 fighters faced charges: assault, disturbing the peace, resisting arrest. Their mugshots appeared online, faces swollen and unrecognizable. Neighbors who once waved politely now crossed the street to avoid eye contact. The block felt colder, quieter, fractured. But the memory lingered. The sound of fists against flesh, the glow of flashing lights against white garage doors, the sight of neighbors, once united, now divided. Oak Ridge would never be the same. For months, people still spoke of that night. The night the quiet street became a battlefield. The night neighbors turned into enemies, the police turned into referees, and the world turned its gaze on a small block that had once seemed untouchable.
It was the night Oak Ridge Lane lost its innocence and gained its infamy.